What is going on, people? It's your boy Rebirth here, bringing you a very exciting video. Today I have one of the pillars of the Bleach community, although he's so cool he probably won't admit it. It's my boy Jaymes Hanson. How you doing?
You're right, I won't admit it. But yeah, I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Okay. So based on the title, today we're going to be reviewing Kubo's final arc, the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, and this is the first of a 6-chapter series I'm going to be having on the channel, and Jaymes is here to kick things off. I think there was no better person to use to start this new playlist on the channel. So for everybody watching, glad you're here. Hopefully you have a fun time. Hopefully you come away from this feeling more educated, more informed about the Bleach franchise and everything Kubo related. So without wasting any further time, let's jump right into it. So my first question for Jaymes, because right off the bat I do want to ask this question. A lot of people have different opinions on the 1,000-Year Blood War arc as a whole. On a personal level, I believe the 1,000-Year Blood War arc to be Kubo's best arc. What is your opinion on the 1,000-Year Blood War and where it ranks in your eyes in all of Bleach?
I would definitely agree that it is Kubo's best arc. I think more of the problems came between the second half, of which, is a very popular opinion, so to say. This isn't due to Kubo's writing or ability to write. In actual fact, it was because of a 7-week, it was either 5-week or 7-week break where Kubo took away to, he said he was going to draw the final battle, which the final battle didn't really showcase that 5 to 7 week break, so to say, obviously, because we know how rushed it was in a way, and we have context for that. But also, it was also Kubo's ability to just have a rest and a time period of just getting away from weekly manga for a little bit. So going away from the first part, the second part is criticised as much as it is because of those health issues. But I think overall, taking away that consideration, as a arc as a full, it is again one of Kubo's best arcs because of the revelations and the tie-ins together. And even if it was nerfed, in a sense, it was still better than what most Shonen Jump titles can achieve today, which goes to a testament to even when Kubo isn't at his best, he still can provide some amazing content that people are doing really cool live reactions to back in the day. Like there was always memes of the reaction template. Of just things that were happening each week. First part though, absolute bangers.
Absolutely.
Start to finish, the first part was amazing, and it really people were saying it was better than the Soul Society, to which I would agree on. It definitely was
as well. Yeah, definitely. So the arc does kick off with the Department of Research and Development trying to find a reason for the mass destruction of hollows. Moiri Kudotuchi notes that only one party has the ability to completely remove hollows from existence itself, which, if you know your Bleach lore, you know what Kubo is alluding to. My question to you here is, if you can think back to the time when you were initially reading the arc, and you were beginning to sense that the Quincy were the ones behind it all, and they were going to be the final villains in Bleach, what was your opinion on that? Did you like the idea of Kubo making Quincy's the endgame for Bleach?
It wasn't so much of the Quincy's, because back then, when I was reading it during the Fullbring arc, and when I was watching it in the anime, which was around about the Gin and Aizen fight, the formula that was very popular in the community at the time was every character within Ichigo's friend group was having an arc specified to them. So obviously, Ichigo, Soul Reaper, or Soul Society. Sorry, that was Ruki at Soul Society, and then Orihime, Wakamundo, and then Chad, Fullbring. So the only one that was left was Uryu, and I personally, during that time, found the Quincy's or Uryu to be quite bland and boring. So to be honest, going into it initially, I wasn't that excited until obviously we got it, and I was like, oh, okay, do you know what? I feel it a little bit. So
I would actually have to agree with that, because the Quincy throughout the Bleach building up to the final arc before they were ultimately revealed, they were, I would say, at best a B-level part of Bleach. Like, they were decent, there's some cool stuff here and there, but we knew so little, and the little that we saw, it was decent at best. But Kubo definitely upped the ante and really showcased how cool the Quincy could be. So we then get the introduction of two characters by the name of Yuki Ryunosuke and Shino. And I'll just put it out there, I dislike this move by Kubo because I don't know exactly why he went through the trouble of creating these two characters who ultimately fade into obscurity. And I'm going to ask for your opinion. But before I do, I'm just going to lay down my argument for why I don't necessarily like that they exist. Kubo uses them to kickstart the arc, and it's all well and good because, you know, Yuki and Shino are people that Ichigo comes to save, and as we go into the arc, the story needed a Soul Reaper on our side to relay some information to Ichigo to help the story move forward and everything. But I think Kubo could have done he could have gone a different way and still come to the ultimate destination. So I want to ask you, did you like the character introductions of Yuki and Shino?
No, not at all. I really just didn't. Again, going back in that time, it was, who are these kids? I hope that these kids aren't going to be the ones to take over Ichigo's spot. And for some reason, people generally thought that was going to be the case.
Right.
When I think about it now, in retrospect, you know, one of them was supposed to be, Uketake's sister, which I didn't like her at all. I thought she was quite just there, bland, boring. The kid, again, bland and boring. In retrospect, when the anime comes out, I don't think I'm gonna hate him as much because of how much fast-paced it will be, I think. And I think that was maybe a bit of a problem as well, is that you just jumped into an arc of which you were introduced into characters you really didn't care for. This might have been the Death Saves the Strawberry light novel, I believe. And there was a comment either by Renji or someone, and again, take it with a pinch of salt, anyone that's watching. It was taught in the Soul Reaper Academy that Ichigo was the one that saved them, and he is a hero, and people should recognize him as a hero. So I think what was supposed to be presented was when the kid was getting absolutely slapped, and you know, he thought he was going to die, and then he saw Ichigo. I think with that context in mind, especially for Japanese fans that probably bought the novel in comparison to the Western fans, you know, they have a little bit more context potentially. You know, I'm just swinging a guess. I think that to have that kid look at Ichigo and be, you know, feel saved, probably meant a lot more than what we took it for at the time. And I think that was supposed to be the ideal of like these new generation of Soul Reaper Academy members are now looking at Ichigo and being like, oh, that's the hero, he's come to save us. Like, this is how important Ichigo is, right? But ultimately, I think I agree with you in terms of can the arc have started off without them? I think so, absolutely.
So we go forward and they come to Karakura, and there's a character who's standing on top of a building, and he crushes something and leaves. And I think this is, because I saw the video you made about Kubo and foreshadowing, this is one of the more obvious foreshadowing that Kubo does, where he crushes the pill and later on a bunch of hollows show up. This is a callback to chapter 36 of Bleach, where in that chapter, Uryu uses something called hollow bait, which is a pill. He crushes it and hollows are drawn there. So this is Kubo giving you little bits and pieces to let you know that this is probably leaning towards the Quincy's, because at this time it wasn't confirmed, but with these little breadcrumbs, Kubo's letting you know where this is going. We move forward and Hiyori and Lisa are walking on the street and they notice a little tear in space. Now, I want to get your opinion on this because this is something Kubo seems to do all the time, where he does this at the beginning of the arc. We're like two, maybe 3 chapters into the arc. This doesn't come into play until way later in the arc. Now, what was your opinion, at least when you're reading first time through, where Kubo does something like this and you don't see it again until the end? Because the little tear in space was indicative of the imbalance being created by the hollows dying, and it's the physical representation of the worlds beginning to be negatively affected by the deaths of the hollows. So what's your opinion on Kubo's methods, where his foreshadowing techniques involve starting something and then you don't see it all the way to like maybe 200 chapters later? Are you a fan of that?
Yeah, of course I am. Why wouldn't I be? Like, to have something just... to me, I class that as world building. Because it's kind of explaining how, you know, life and death do affect the worlds, and even little details like that, which many people probably wouldn't have noticed, because again, as you said, it happened so early on in the arc, only to be later revealed way later on. People will forget that little tidbit. I think it's very important because it stays consistent, and I think that is the most important thing, is consistency.
So we move forward in the arc, and Yuki and Shino are in Ichigo's room, and you know, all that good stuff. An unknown character appears in Ichigo's room, standing on his bed after coming through the window, and introduces himself as Guiaro Aburn. Ichigo, like the boss he is, simply looks at him and tells him, "I don't know who you are, but you better get off my bed." Now, this is just my little geek out moment. I love how Ichigo nonchalantly just like, "I don't know who you are, but you better get off my bed." That's such an Ichigo line. You know, I just want to get your just like, what do you think about Kubo writing Ichigo to say stuff like that?
I don't think anyone in the Soul Society besides those, and even Ichigo's gang, is really thinking anyone can stop them at that point, or anyone is stronger than them. I mean, Ichigo just, you know, recently beat Aizen, like, no one's topping that. So, like, in Ichigo's mind, it's like, man, get off my bed, man. Like, who are you, bro? And, you know, it fit, because, like, I think a lot of us were like, it's this guy, like, another guy with an Arancar looking mask, bro. Get off, man, get out of here.
It's great, you know, like, it's great.
Yeah, so it's like, it was a portrayal of, I believe, how readers would have reacted to, like, who's this guy? And Ichigo kind of spoke for us in a sense. So I love that scene.
Confident Ichigo is the best version of Ichigo. Well, I greatly enjoy the times when Ichigo is down in the dumps and, you know, Kubo is exploring some aspects that are more negative or depressing. Confident Ichigo is one of the most thrilling main characters to watch, because he's one of those few characters who can talk mad game and back it up. And that's exactly what he does in this scene, because Abern tries to be cocky and he's like, "I'm sorry, I didn't hear you," but mid-sentence Ichigo kicks him right out of his window, transforms into a Soul Reaper, and, you know, Abern is trying to talk to him to, you know, monologue. He's like, yeah, let's just go, and just walks, and it's classic Ichigo, and I love it. And for starting a new arc, I think that was great for Kubo to remind us what most people would think peak Ichigo was, being the Soul Society version of Ichigo. So that was great. That was just great. Abern reveals a Quincy pentagram chain, which evokes a really cool weapon. It's like a small battle unit that surrounds him, and it has cannons shooting out from the side. I'm just trying to get, what was your opinion on Kubo's design for Abern's? I don't know what you want to call it. If you want to call it like, well, Quincy really, I don't know what to call it. Right, it's a really weird one.
We thought it was a bow at the time, and then it turned out to be like big, massive cannons. I think, yeah, I think it was funny, to be honest, because going from Fullbring, I mean, even going from Fake Karakura Town to go into Fullbring, I think this is one of the first times we really saw Kubo's new art style really flourish and really become like the unique style that it is. So I think our cool factor, it hit. Again, first quote unquote villain, quote unquote, that isn't Kurage. You know, it was like, okay, like, this guy can do some bits, you know? He's popping off, bro. But again, as expected, wasn't doing anything to Ichigo, to which I think the majority of the audience kind of expected that, since as my man got kicked off the bed. You know, it's like, guy's not really put some clout points on at the moment. But I think for the majority of the part, in terms of flashy aesthetic, it did its job. And it kind of said, okay, well, you know, if this is the bottom barrel and this is how cool this guy is doing things, then he was there for the mystery. The whole Quincy pentagram thing, like, he was there for mystery, and that was it. Like, that was his sole choice, and I think good choice, very good choice.
Yeah, and I can't wait. This is just a personal thing of mine. I expect some over-the-top Sakuga animation when he draws out the little battle units to surround him. I expect some cool animation for that scene. Like, you know, it's great to be a Bleach fan these days. It really is. So Kubo switches back to the Rukongai. Yumichika and Ikaku are investigating the area, and they find something interesting. The footprints of the Rukongai district members lead to a clearing, and then all of a sudden the footsteps disappear. Yumichika then makes a deduction that the members were abducted by their own fellow district members. Now, as we come to find later on the arc, that is an incorrect assumption, but this is Kubo taking the arc from, it's not your traditional, because people used to say, oh, Kubo can't write a non-rescue arc, and here Kubo is like, well, I'm gonna start off with the mystery of, oh, who's killing the hulls, but at the same time, concurrently, there are mysterious individuals who seem to be abducting members of the Rukongai. So, back in the 1st Division barracks, Yamamoto receives a visit from 7 cloaked individuals who claim to be here to declare war. Now, I particularly enjoyed this because the 7 individuals come to declare war is very synonymous with biblical contexts of 7 trumpets or 7 vials, which are meant to signal the end of the world. And what's even better is Yamamoto's answer, because they accuse him of having very little security, and he just turns around and says, I am here, what better security can there be? Which is one of the most iconic lines I've read in Bleach. And when I initially read it, I actually went to check because I know All Might says I am here. I was like, did Horikoshi take this from Kubo? And I went to check the time of it, and I think my hero was already running by then. So I was like, okay, cool. Because I know Horikoshi is a fan of Kubo. I was like, but actually no, the timing.
2015, I think.
Right, yeah. So the timing doesn't actually
it
work.
already happened, yeah.
But it was still interesting for me to go check. But back in Karakura Town, Ichigo is battling Aburn, and we already talked about Aburn's weapons. Really, really cool. But as they're fighting, Aburn he's very obviously trying to get Ichigo to use his Bankai. Ichigo thinks about it, it's one of those moments which I enjoy because Kubo takes you into the mind of Ichigo, where Ichigo knows exactly what this guy's trying to do. He's trying to get me to use my Bankai. Why? I don't know, but I'll call your bluff. He goes Bankai, and Aburn becomes very excited. Pulls out a small device from his pocket. Black energy comes out of it, surrounds him, forming a cross. On each leg of the cross, there are 4 light beams which shoot out towards Ichigo. He then starts to chant a ritual, and as he chants, Ichigo's gauntlet starts to break, and he starts to scream. But he breaks out of it and fires a Getsuga Tensho at the very shocked Aburn. I loved this scene, specifically the part with the chanting, because even though Aburn isn't a Quincy, he's on a wrong car, chanting is a very Quincy thing to do, even though the Storyverse do it too. So it's always fun for me to see these characters chant, and with a composer like Shiro Sagisu, I'm expecting some really ominous music to back this up. And the whole sequence is really good, and it foreshadows what's to come in the very near future. Now, this is what I'm going to ask your opinion on here, because this is a little bit of a, I don't know if it's controversial, but to me, let's see what your opinion on this is. In the first division barracks, Sasakibe comes flying out of nowhere with a huge arrow running through his body. He lands on the ground, and the intruders deliver a bone-chilling message that says, in 5 days, Soul Society will be annihilated at the hands of the Vanonrake. And ultimately, Sasakibe dies, and, that's cool and whatever. What's your opinion on Sasakibe being off-screened?
It doesn't. Okay. I don't think it's controversial.
Okay.
Because a lot of worse controversies have happened. I don't think there was anyone that really cared about Sasakibe. And
True.
if you were to let him use his Bankai only to get slapped, people would have been disappointed. So I think the writing of Sasakibe, letting him die, and then finding out what Sasakibe was about, was probably the best decision to go about it. If you hadn't done anything with this character since that one scene in the Soul Society, then chances are you're not going to get a reaction, or even a cool reaction, from him doing his job and then getting jobbed after. So all you can do is just off-screen him, even though it technically wasn't off-screened. You saw his death, you saw him getting impaled and whatnot. So I'm kind of on the fence with what people can consider off-screen, because I wouldn't assume he put much of a fight in the first place.
Right.
And for shock value, I think it worked. However, again, being told afterwards his accomplishments and why he was the way he was, probably was the better writing decision. Because at least you feel a little bit sympathetic for the guy rather than absolute disappointment.
I can understand that perspective if there are only 2 options. Like if your 2 options are to either showcase the fight and give us a little bit of who he is and let him die, or use his death as a shock value to then give us his backstory or a little bit about him after his death. Shouldn't there be a third option where before coming to this point we should have known something about him? Like, does your opinion change when you consider that third option?
It's one of those of like, where would you place it? And I find that, I think obviously Kubo wanted to do a lot, especially with Tatsuki, Mizuru, and Keigo back in the Substitute Shinigami arc. It's like you have so many characters. Where do you place him? And I generally thought about him because I think he's a I think he deserved it.
Right.
And maybe the anime could do some padding out, but again, it's like one of those things, isn't it? I think there was an interview, and sorry if I'm going off topic.
No, you're good.
But there was an interview where that was it. Was it the Yoruichi and Kisuke? He wanted to do something with them.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it might have been another character, but because he was talking to the writers of the novels. And again, even if it's the wrong characters, the same rule applies. is that he was talking about how Kubo wanted to do stories on certain characters, but it would stray away from Ichigo and his story. So he had to ultimately make a lot of sacrifices in regards to giving characters certain screen times. And when I think about Sasakibe, it's like, I don't think you can have a Sasakibe story without the 1,000-Year Blood War flashback or thereafter. And I think that's, to this day, I believe we got robbed of that. Right. I really do believe we got robbed. And I hope, I pray that, you know, that flashback gets shown to us in the anime.
Right.
But I think if that was the intention to have that be made, then Sasakibe would have more character time and screen time, and I'd be all for it.
Right.
But again, going by context and going by story writing, I think it's one of those, man. It's like it's down to perspective. However, I understand people's disagreements with it, and I understand people who may be accepting of it. Like, both sides are valid.
Ultimately, we'll just have to see. Hopefully, the anime can give us a little bit more of his character. Honestly, the 1,000-Year Blood War flashback of the first war is going to do so many characters a lot of good. You know, it benefits the series as a whole if we get that. So, you know, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Back in Karakura Town, Abern, or I've seen his name be Ivan in some translations, he gets hit by Getsuga Tensho, takes serious damage. He's complaining about how Ichigo's Bankai isn't disappearing. Ichigo flashes behind him, wants to take him in for questioning, but a shadow appears and envelops him along with the people in the Soul Society. Those 7 individuals get enveloped by shadows as well, and they arrive at somewhat of an ice palace. And there we get a look at the big bad of the final arc.
Mustache man.
Yeah, the person who, I mean, it's controversial, maybe it is, I think is the best villain in Bleach. I love this man. Yuha Bach, or you. I
think it's controversial because of the end.
He was great, and there's just a little bit of detail because again, it's so coincidental that you the article about Kubo and foreshadowing came out along with, you know, you've been preaching about Kubo and foreshadowing and the little details that he puts around that you can pick up on. At the end of every chapter, Kubo likes to draw certain small pictures, and it's one of these ideas that I want to do between the poems at the beginning of every volume and the pictures at the end of every chapter. I feel like there's, like, with Kubo, I would be really shocked if there isn't some sort of hidden message in all of this. In this specific chapter, Kubo draws a Quincy cross and then writes peace at the bottom, but the letters are dripping in blood. And within the context of the chapter, it makes sense because it's ironic, because Yuha keeps talking about conflict does not please me. Let me hear your reports in the name of peace. And the irony here is he's speaking of peace, yet he's headed straight for bloodshed. So the Quincy cross and the piece underneath it and the blood dripping, it's classic Kubo. Like, that's what Kubo does. And it's just a little detail, but I like it. What are your thoughts on Kubo's little beginning of the volume poems versus the end of chapter sketches?
I think none of them make sense until later on. A good example of this is, you know, Grimjaw versus Ichigo, the sketches at the end of that of Ichigo breaking out the chains.
Yeah, those are good.
And again, you don't really understand that until later on. So in this regard, again, when it comes to, and this is why I haven't done a video on poems or the illustrations, because it really is down to how you perceive it. Mm-hmm. And the way I perceive that, off the top of my head, I haven't really thought about it, but like how I perceive that is that the fact that you watch, or you bark, whatever you want to call him, right, is that his ideal of peace is no deaths, right? Which obviously he wanted immortality, and he wanted to take away the gap of being alive and dead, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Whether that's because of hell, we don't know.
Kubo.
Who knows, right? But, you know, I think it's very symbolic, and it kind of fits, maybe, I'd argue, with Tozen a little bit, because even though his intentions are good, and at the end result is peace,
right,
he has to create bloodshed to get to that ultimate peace. So that bloodshed is little to him,
right,
in regarding the big picture.
Right.
But again, it's down to interpretation, and people are going to debate me on it. People are going to debate you on it, you know. So it's like, I think I like those things because, again, it creates discussion. It engages viewer thought.
Right.
So I love those poems. Again, sometimes they can get messed up with translations from this.
True.
Since there's kanji can mean many different things.
That's true.
So again, I take the poems with a pinch of salt.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I love Kubo. The dude is a genius. The dude is a genius. So we move on and we go back to Ichigo's house. It's a bunch of scenes with Yuki. Like, I don't care. And he gets a call from Soul Society, which is one of the reasons I think Kubo wanted a Soul Reaper there, because that's how Ichigo gets news of what's going on. So he gets a call with news that Sasakibe is dead. Hours pass and Ichigo is in his room contemplating what just happened. And by the way, Kubo gives us a look on Ichigo's room. Have you noticed? Ichigo's room is always clean. Like, this man is always on point. And it's one of those little things I just love about Ichigo. He studies hard, he has a job, and his room is clean. It's like role model for all young
learn
boys.
from that, because I know a lot of weebs don't even shower. So I mean,
Ichigo's not about that life.
It's probably why they don't like Bleach, bro, because they feel personally offended.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
So Ichigo goes on patrol, and as he's going on patrol, and Nell comes flying out of nowhere, crashes into him, as he's crying about Wakamundo. Now, this is a very simple question: how are you feeling seeing Nell again after all that time?
Adorable. I love seeing Nell.
Yeah, me too.
To be honest,
he's great.
I hate that it was in a state of urgency. To be quite honest with you, I mean, it had been what 17 months and some change since they last saw each other. So it was like, you know, no, you could have visited every now and then, right? If it's easy for you to get to the world of the living like that, then you know.
So we cut back to Yuha back in the Vondereg, the Ice Palace, and this entire scene is basically just, you know, Kubo setting up how dangerous of an individual Yuha is, because there's this individual called Ludus Fragan, and in the grand scheme of things, he doesn't really matter. But the way, and I read this again, and I want to get your opinion on this, but I really feel like Kubo is implying that Ludus Fragan is the individual who made the call to have the 7 individuals go tell Yamamoto that war will come in 5 days. Because Yuha asks him, why are you making these decisions? And he says, oh, I assumed that 5 days would be enough for us and them to all mobilize for battle. And Yuha is like, why you keep talking about the future? Which, Kubo, nice there, talking about, why are you talking about the future? I'm interested in the present. And then he goes ahead to just destroy Ludus Fragan and Abern. What was your opinion, or how would you rank the introduction of Yuha destroying those 2 individuals right on the spot the way he did?
I think that's what made him a very compelling character for people, because you didn't quite know what his morality was. In a sense, it's like there was no black or white with him. Right. In a sense, you know, like most villains. Most villains were accustomed to. So either you're on one side or the other, and Bark was kind of like, no, you do things my way because this is the correct way of doing it. What you just did was just be a dickhead, right, essentially, and just mess up plans for no reason. Like, I'm not weak. You want to play games, I'll play them back. Right. Type of thing. So he was definitely showcased as a strong leader, a strong villain, and just kind of gave you a little bit of an ounce of what he was capable of. Like, there was no mercy in his killing. There was no hesitation, and it was quite gruesome. I think like that was one of the first times you really just saw what the arc was about. Besides the Izuru thing, you saw, you know, just how violent this arc was going to be, and I thought that was a good showcase of that.
I wonder how the anime is going to do it, because, you know, Kubo doesn't shy away from it. He shows you the body, and he shows you his head, and just the blood splattering in frame. I'm wondering what they're going to do, if they're just going to do exactly that, because it's pretty gruesome. Pretty gruesome. But so Yuha he gets up from his chair and he starts walking up a bunch of stairs, pulls away a curtain of some kind to reveal a spotter number 3, the now proclaimed Queen of Wakamundo, Tia Hareba. It's great to see her, and unfortunately she's chained up, to which I'm like, Kubo, like, okay, cool, thank you, Kubo, we get it, yeah, but thank you, Kubo, that was very nice of you. But it was like Tia Hareba chained up and bound. I don't think she was she gagged? I don't think she was gagged.
Did you like that?
It was great to see, because Tia Hareba is one of my favorite.
Oh, you like that, yeah?
It was great to see.
You're moving like that, yeah? Oh.
But it was really good to see, and there's one little thing that Kubo put into this thing that I enjoyed, which is Yuha touches his seat and it starts to fade. But then the fading here is very similar to, if you go back to Uryu versus Mayuri, when Uryu is breaking down the particles in the Soul Society and channeling them as reishi, they sort of dissipate in a very leaf pattern, like as though they were leaves.
Sure, yeah.
And that's exactly what's happening here with Yuha and the chair. To which, if you didn't already know they were Quincy, which by this time Kubo's giving you every reason to know that they are, but it hasn't been explicitly said, this is another reason to let you know that we're dealing with Quincy's. So it's really,
we're
really
reading
great.
Bleach, mate. We don't need hand holding in this series.
Not here in Title Kubo's Kubology. In Kubology, you need to pick up for yourself.
Is that what we're calling it? Kubology?
Kubology, that's what we're calling
Never heard
it.
of that, but I like it, sure.
Kubology. So now, and Pesce Gatishe, which hilarious guy. He's one of the few characters who are just funny. So he tells Ichigo that Wakamundo has been attacked and Dondo Chaka has been abducted. And I found it funny that Dondo Chaka is the one who wasn't there, because of all of them, he's the one people probably care about the least. So thank you, Kubo, for that. So I don't know, do you like Dondo Chaka?
They're both goofy, bro.
I don't mind them, but a bit of comic relief, just don't overstay your welcome. That's how I see it.
Okay.
And besides, they had a serious moment. You know, the moment where Nell went human form for the first time, they went serious, right?
Right. For
and
one
the moment where, well, yeah, but there was also the flashback too, where Nell got obviously turned into a child by having her head smashed in.
Yeah.
And I think Pesce and Underchaka looked at each other and be like, okay, like we've got to try and make her life as happy as possible. And I think that's the reason why they're goofy.
Yeah.
But you know, and knowing that fact, like it's more tolerable. But again, only when it's needed.
Okay.
So, as long as they don't overstay their welcome, I don't mind them. I think, you know, sometimes series need a bit of comedy, you know.
Right. We cut back to Soul Society, and the Gotei 13 are giving Sasakibe his final funeral rites. And Byakuya tells Renji about Shojiro Sasakibe. And again, we've already spoken about this, where this is the point where we get the backstory and everything he was about, at least the little that we get and everything. And so we've already spoken about this, how the different options, so I'm just going to skip over that because we've already spoken about it. Ichigo calls Chad, Orihime, and Uryu to his room to discuss the current situation. After Aizen fell, and with the death of both Batagon and Stark, control of Wakamundo fell to Haribel, and it was all good until Haribel got abducted by mysterious individuals who captured Orankor and turned them into soldiers. Now, when I was reading this, I remember thinking, why didn't Ichigo or anybody was like, where is Grimmjow? Okay? Because if there's a fight...
We all did at the time.
Right. If there's a fight, Grimmjow should be there. And, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if anybody should be king, it should be Grimmjow, not Haribel, but whatever. But
I mean, they did talk about it in the light novels a little bit, so...
Yeah, I need to get back on that. I haven't... I'm still, like, halfway into the first part. But, you know, fair play. Fair play.
Technically, Haribel never claimed herself to be the queen of Wakamundo because she knew if she did, then Grimmjow would want to fight her.
Right.
And she admitted that if those two both clashed, it was even Nell or Haribel that said it. They said if they both clashed, one of them is dying, and
they need all the hollow.
It could have been either one of them, you know. So it's like she wanted to avoid conflict, which tells me that, you know, both of them could have been king or queen.
Right.
So
my money's on Grimmjow for what it's worth, but yeah. So in any case, Ichigo wants to go save Dondo Chakra, but Uryu decides to stay. Why? Because Quincy's directly helping Hollow is against their nature. Just then, Kisuke, which is the first time we see Kisuke in this new arc, great to see him. He comes in very similar to when Ichigo found Kon wrapped behind this toilet, and they were fighting to try and get the Gikon gun so he can go fight Renji and Byakuya. Kisuke just appeared in the window, just sitting there like the boss he is, and he's like, you know, do you need help? But in this case, he organizes a trip to Wakamundo. So it's great to see Kisuke. Kubo cuts back to the Ice Palace, and Hashvald notices that Ivan or Abern activated his medallion, but it failed to capture Ichigo's Bankai. And this confirms the theory about Ichigo being a war potential. Yuha instructs Hashvald to tell the hunting army to capture some hollows, and he doesn't specify why, but I'm pretty sure he's doing this to catch Ichigo's attention to draw him to Wakamundo, which we will see ultimately. So again, this is just Kubo. He won't make it that obvious, but I'm pretty sure that's why Yuha is doing that. He's trying to catch Ichigo's attention. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think his invasion would have been as of useful if Ichigo was at the Soul Society. So yeah, absolutely. And we also know that it was difficult to capture his Bankai as well. So he wanted to keep him away as much as he can.
Okay. So we move on, and Kisuke and Ichigo are headed along with Chad and Orihime, and now are headed to Wakamundo. Kisuke and Ichigo have a conversation, citing that between what is happening in the Soul Society, the appearance of that stranger, and the attack on Wakamundo, something is clearly going on, to which we all know. They make it to Wakamundo, and Las Noches is in shambles, with blue flames everywhere. Now, this is like, the blue flames is from a color page that Kubo drew. So I'm like, okay, so this is actually blue flames. Do you think the blue flames are necessarily like directly connected to Quincy? Like, the idea of blue flames, could we legally attribute that to the Quincy? What do you think?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, cool.
Okay, cool.
I don't see why not. Yeah, I don't see why not.
Okay.
I mean, it's the most colour that Wakamundo's had in years, so.
They're roasting Wakamundo. My goodness.
Very, very grey, you know, dull.
Yeah.
A bit of light never hurt anyone.
So they make it to Wakamundo.
Maybe a bit of blood all over the sun, you know, so a bit of colour.
The bodies and limbs of the fallen Arrancar were everywhere, and Ichigo had to cover Nell's eyes, which is, it's funny to me because like Nell is in a kid's form, but like let me get your opinion on this. Like Nell is in kid's form, but she's not a child, and it's fair to say because she's a hollow and a high-ranking hollow at that, she's had to live through hollows, you know, to become a Menos. The Gillians eat each other, and then she goes like she's seen her fair share of some, you know, weird stuff. So it's still it's still interesting that Ichigo would still try to cover her eyes.
I think it's instinctual. I think it's instinctual, to be honest.
Okay, that's fair enough. So, and then we get our first look at, for as far as I'm concerned, the first major villain of the arc, Mr. Quilge Opie.
Big man Quilge.
Or Kirige. I prefer Kirige. I remember when they first came, the scans were calling it like Kirige. I prefer that.
I think the way the Japanese pronunciation would be Kirige.
Kirige. This man is like, this dude is nasty. I love Kirige. This dude is great. He's just no mercy, no pity, just death in the face of objection. He's ambushed by Meredi and Loli, the two girls who were bullying Orihime. He makes quick work of them really easy, but then he's ambushed by Haribos Fracciones, Sunsun, Apache, and Millerose. Random question, who's your favorite out of those three?
I feel like I'm gonna get hate for it, but I like Apache, bro.
What?
I don't know.
The one with the two different colored eyes?
Yeah, I like a bit of feistiness, bro.
My goodness.
I don't know what it is, bro. I like feistiness. I mean, Sun's like she's way too skinny, bro. Way too skinny.
Like the snake chick.
Yeah. And Mila Rose is like that Amazonian woman, like Death by Snoo from Futurama, bro. Like I can't be dealing with that, bro. Like
I guess the safe option is
Apache.
Apache, really. As crazy as it sounds. But, okay.
Hey, if you like your big muscular women in the chat, boys, like I ain't gonna hate you guys, do you?
That's great. Kubo gives you so many that no matter who you are, you'll find something for you, which is very nice. Of course,
absolutely.
Yeah. So Haribos Fracciones make quick work of the Quincy Soldats, which are just the random soldiers, and upon seeing their strength, Kirige,
I love how you just completely just ignored that Lolly and Melody got absolutely slammed.
By who?
By Kirige.
Well, it's coming up. Like he first.
Oh, okay. I was about to say. Don't miss my girl Lolly out, bro. We all love Lolly, bro. We stand Lolly around these parts. Twin tails for the win, boys.
Yeah, but yeah, he completely ambushed. Like it was. Oh, you're talking about Meredy and Loli, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did skip over them. Okay, yeah, I did skip over them.
Shaking my head.
They're to me, I really don't care about those two characters, especially for what they did to Orihime. I wasn't
for Melody, but Lolly, we stand.
Okay, fair enough. But Kirige wants to recruit Haribos Fracciones. He tells them to surrender and switch sides, but they defiantly disagree and launch out in attack. Kubo cuts back to Soul Society, and Akon is at a captain's meeting. I love captain's meeting. It's really cool when you see all the captains standing there in line. And Yamamoto just in the middle. It's great scenes.
Those captains meetings are what, like, they're a guilty pleasure of how I like the Straw Hats just chilling on the ship, just doing nothing and just goofing around. I don't know what it is specifically, but having them all in one room, just having a conversation about just anything, it's just a weird guilty pleasure for me, and I don't know why.
I mean, I would have to agree. It's to me, it's if we care about these characters as much as we say we do, then we enjoy when they're all together interacting.
Yeah, because you don't see many captains just interact with each other, so it's like really nice.
Right, it's really, really nice. I wish Kubo does it more, but he does it sparingly when it's absolutely necessary. To which if they're together, it means something's going on. So that's why Kubo does it that way. I appreciate that. But after Akon gives his report, Mayuri reveals what is pretty obvious by this point. The culprits are the Quincy. Somehow they survived the massacre and are back. Not only are they back, they are able to bypass the security of the Seraite. Yamamoto, all he cares about is where's their stronghold, but Mayuri does not have the information right now. So he makes the order to all captains. They said war would come in 5 days, but we will not be caught unaware. Prepare for battle immediately. We cut back to Wakamundo, and Ichigo arrives at the battlefield to see the bodies of the 3 Arrancar girls bloodied and spread about the area. And Kirige is just standing there like, wow, I have a lot of visitors today. This dude is legit, alright? He, like, they were so bloodied and beaten and just spread around the area. It was menacing. I love this guy.
Work, isn't it?
I love this guy. Do you think Kubo should have shown the beatdown, or did you like this? I kind of liked this.
Oh, I loved it. Like, I think there's times for showing things, and then there's times for the imagination.
Okay. I think this would be one of those times.
Yeah, that was one of those. Again, like, we can see, again, like, in the anime, they can do really nice work with that. If they want to do a massive Sakuga shot of just, like, a bunch of, like, 100 hollows, just, like, try and jump him, and he just swipes them all in one shot, bro.
Oh,
like,
my God.
then I'm all for that, too. But, like, the idea that he just made quick work of it, no sweat, was just, like, well, would it have been fun to see that? Maybe, actually. I don't know. But still,
I mean,
it's like, yeah.
It works
it's
because
like,
Kubo shows you enough Kirige later on anyway. So this,
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's passable.
It justifies it.
Yeah. So Kubo cuts back to Soul Society, and, you know, this is all the chapters together. Kubo's, like, jumping all over the place, giving you the different things that are happening, presumably at the same time, I would assume. Kubo cuts back to Soul Society, and all the vice captains are together in a room. Rukia is pacing the floor, unable to sit still, to which, you know, this would be the first time we see Rukia after the Fullbring arc. For us, it'll be the first time we see Rukia after many years, you know, for anime watchers once it comes back. And Renji has a little banter. She has a little banter with Renji, to whom, after the Fullbring, well, in the Fullbring arc, Renji came back a lot cooler. Like, he's not as hot-headed, and I love that Kubo did that with him, because he's so much more likable when he's calm and cool and just chilling. I love the Renji that's calm. But in any case, Izuru Kida then speaks up. He explains that he was under the impression that the disappearance in the Rukongai and the murder of Halls were both related to the same thing, but it doesn't seem to be the case. So he asks if anyone has investigated the Rukon district. Yachiri speaks up and says Yumichika and Ikaku just found footprints in the area, but he notes that the citizens of the Rukongai are always barefoot, so the sandal prints we see can't have belonged to them. It must have come from Soul Reapers. Now this is some pretty intense stuff right here. What is your opinion? Because we'll get confirmation soon. What's your opinion on the sort of morality of the Soul Society that would have them do?
I'm not surprised.
Okay.
Look in the Soul Society where Mayuri just casually just like detonated people from his own squad.
Right.
I'm not surprised. If that's what needed to be done, that's what needed to be done, and it was Mayuri. So it's like, it's like, well, Mayuri. it's Mayuri.
I feel for the Rukon, because like for example, if we died and went to Soul Society, we would be in the Rukon guy. Like, Mayuri's killing people like us who would be there, and it's just so sad that there's already elitism in the Soul Society where, you know, you don't get to live with your family, you're there barefoot working and all that stuff, and then if anybody has to die, sure, I feel like if he killed Soul Reapers, because they're stronger, you'd have to kill less of them, but instead just goes and kills the Rukongai district members who are just chilling. It's just so sad to think about.
That's the thing, though. No one's gonna care for him. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
and if what we've learned about Ray anyway, and how that grading system works, they'll get reincarnated anyway. So I mean, it's pretty really either way. Like, it's still still messed up, bro. But
yeah,
just don't be in the Rukon guy, innit? I don't know.
Yeah, you get out of the Rukon guy if you go to the Soul Society.